Okay, good morning, guys. I quickly want to take you through how to incorporate the different levels of complexity within your database, Access database. So I have brought them, copied them over into my slide. So the first one, and I will somewhere use a highlighter to highlight. Let me just do this. All right, so operators like bigger than or equal or not or is null. So you can use that for a simple query in your database. For example, everyone where the age equals 18, you want to see, what who the volunteers are or whatever your database is about. Then the second level is very similar. It just uses other operators, or, and, between, and then also you can use the like operator with an asterisk or a question mark in order to build your query. And now I want to take you through, I'm going to open Access and I'm going to show you how to create a calculated field with some calculation in it. We're going to ignore this one because this is too complicated for now, but we're going to use a simple calculated field for level 3. And I'm going to show you how to do a grouping because that is the easiest way to get your marks. So ignore definitely the last two because they are really, really difficult. And perhaps later in your PAT, once we are maybe back at school and we actually learn about this, you can incorporate that later on and then you can improve your PAT. But it's not really necessary if you have a grouping in your report. So let me bring up Access. All right, so I have created a query that or a database that looks like this with the following fields: first name, surname, age, volunteer cell, volunteer hours, and donations. You can see that the volunteer age from 18, 32, and 19, I did this on purpose so that I can actually group them later on for our grouping. But I have created for you a query that's called a volunteer gift. So my idea was, okay, these volunteers worked hard. I want to give them a gift of 10 Rand per hour that they have worked. So in this case, Peter Pan would get 160 Rand worth of gifts, and Susan Danny would only get 40 Rand per gift. So if I open this query, you can see Peter Pan gets 160 Rand, Susan Danny gets 40 Rand, etc., etc. So how did I do this? Let's quickly look at it. So I create my query as normal, and I select the fields that I want to show. Volunteer hours, I have to select that because I need it in my calculation, but I do not want to display it. So I unticked this box. I'm going to remove this so that I can talk you through how to create a calculated field. Very, very easy. The first thing is you give it a name. So my name would be value of gift. And then we end it off with a colon. So you give it a name and you end it off with a colon. Very, very important. And now we have to make reference to the particular field that I want to do a calculation with. In Excel, we would use a cell reference, A1, B2, C15, etc. In Access, we can't do that because it's not a grid with column numbers and row letters or something like that. We can just reference it by making reference to the field name. So in this case, it's volunteer hours. How do I do this? I use square brackets to make a reference. So every field name in Access has square brackets around them. So in this, and the spelling is very, very important. Volunteer hours and square bracket close. So now the value that is in the volunteer hours I'm using now. And I'm multiplying this by 10. We're not done yet because so I have to make sure that it's selected. And then I want to display it as currency. So how do I do this? I right click, I select properties, and then I go over to the side, and in the property sheet there is a format option. And if I click on the options here on the right, I can actually go down, scroll down and select currency. And that's it. That is you have done, if you do this, you have created your first calculated fields. If I run this and I have really misspelled volunteer hours, so let's, or not. Okay, no, I have. So I literally misspelled volunteer hours. So let's do this again. Volunteer hours. Okay, let's try that again. How embarrassing is that? Save, run, and there we go. I have. So I told you to spell it correctly and then I misspell it. Or did I do this on purpose? You'll never know. Okay, then for the fourth level of function, I have created a query. I'm going to run this. That's called total hours volunteered. So I'm grouping all my 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and 32-year-olds, and I'm summing up the number of hours that all my 18-year-olds have worked or volunteered, my 19-year-olds, and my 32-year-olds. So you can see that, so the key here is that you have a field where there's duplicate values like my age, and then we have our total hours volunteered, where there's a value that can actually be calculated. So if I run this, very important to do groupings, you have to select this little icon under the design tab of the query. It's called totals. It looks like a little E, and if you select it, the total field will appear in your query here in the bottom. So the field that you select that has multiple values of the same, you can simply select group by. And then for the second one, the field that has the actual numbers that you can do calculations with, you can now select a calculated, a function that can do calculations. So in my case, I selected the sum function in order to add up the totals per, age group. Hence, all my 18-year-olds worked 47 hours. So if I view this, you can see age 47, 19, 21, etc. And that's grouping. Just one last thing, you can see that my captions over here are slightly different than the ones in the table. You do that by, if you click on view, go to the query, you right click again to open the properties, and then in your properties there is a caption property where you can change the caption to what you want the field to display as. I hope that this actually helped you in getting, the complexity levels, and you can incorporate them now in your query. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like this video, to subscribe to my channel, and leave me a positive comment.